Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead as he mopped the hospital corridor at 2 a.m. At 45, he had nothing to his name except the janitor uniform he wore and a small locker where he kept his few belongings. He slept in the hospital basement, a secret the night security guard kept for him in exchange for half his weekly pay. As he pushed his cleaning cart past the emergency room, he heard desperate crying. A young woman in torn clothes clutched a little girl who was burning with fever, her lips turning blue. "Please, somebody help us," the woman screamed, but the receptionist barely looked up. "Madam, without a deposit of 50,000 naira, we cannot admit your daughter. That's the policy." "But she's dying. Can't you see she's dying?" The woman's voice cracked with desperation. Marcus stopped. The little girl, no more than 7 years old, was convulsing. Her mother's tears fell on the child's face as she begged everyone who passed by, but people looked away. The receptionist called security. "Please escort this woman outside. She's disturbing other patients." Something broke inside Marcus. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a wrinkled envelope containing 52,000 naira, every penny he had saved over 8 months. It was meant for the small room he wanted to rent, his ticket out of homelessness. "Wait," Marcus said, approaching the desk. His hands trembled as he placed the money on the counter. "Please, save the child." The receptionist's eyes widened. The woman turned, shocked. "Sir, this is all your money." Marcus nodded. "She needs it more than I do." The woman fell to her knees, grabbing Marcus's hands. "What is your name?" "Please, I need to know your name." "Marcus." "Marcus Okonkwo," he said quietly. "Just make sure she gets well." "I am Kayoma," the woman said, tears streaming down her face. "And this is Ada. I will never forget you, Marcus Okonkwo. Never." As they rushed Ada into the emergency room, Marcus returned to his cart. He had just given away his only chance at a better life. That night, he slept on the cold basement floor, wondering if he had made a mistake. 3 days later, Marcus was fired. Someone had reported that he was sleeping in the basement. The hospital administration showed no mercy. They didn't care that he had saved a child's life with his own money. "We cannot harbor homeless people in our facility," the director said coldly. "Security will escort you out." Marcus packed his few belongings into a black garbage bag. As he walked past the children's ward, he saw little Ada through the glass window, now recovering, her mother beside her. He smiled and kept walking. For weeks, Marcus searched for work, but no one would hire a homeless man with no address. He began sleeping under the bridge where other homeless people gathered. Some nights, he went without food. Other nights, kind strangers gave him bread or fruit. One evening, as rain poured heavily, Marcus huddled under torn cardboard, shivering. An old homeless man named Papa Jude sat beside him. "Why do you look so sad, young man?" Papa Jude asked. Marcus told him everything about Ada, the money, losing his job. Papa Jude listened quietly, then said, "You did the right thing. God sees everything. Your reward is coming, even if you cannot see it yet." Marcus wanted to believe him, but as months turned into years, life only got harder. Kayoma never forgot Marcus. After Ada recovered fully, she spent weeks searching for him, returning to the hospital again and again. But Marcus was gone, and no one knew where. Kayoma was a widow who sold vegetables in the market. Life was hard, but she was determined to give Ada the best education possible. Every night, she told Ada the story of the kind man who saved her life. "Ada, always remember Marcus Okonkwo. He gave everything he had so you could live. Promise me that if you ever become successful, you will help people the way he helped you." Ada would nod solemnly. "Mama, I promise. I will find him one day and repay him." Ada was brilliant in school. Despite their poverty, she studied by candlelight and topped her class every year. Teachers noticed her exceptional intelligence and dedication. When Ada was 16, a scholarship opportunity came from a medical foundation looking for talented students from poor backgrounds. Ada applied, competed against thousands of candidates, and won a full scholarship to study medicine. The day the letter arrived, Kayoma wept with joy. "Ada, this is your chance. This is the miracle we've been praying for." Ada hugged her mother. "Mama, I will make you proud. And one day, I will find Marcus Okonkwo. Ada became Dr. Ada Nwosu, one of the youngest and most brilliant cardiologists in the country. She had completed her specialization abroad and returned home to serve her people. At 27, she was already making a name for herself. But success never made her forget where she came from. In her office, she kept a small note that read, Marcus Okonkwo, the man who gave me life. Every free moment, Ada searched for Marcus. She hired investigators, posted on social media, visited homeless shelters. But 20 years had passed, and no one seemed to know where he was. Meanwhile, Marcus was now 65 years old. Life under the bridge had been brutal. His health had deteriorated badly. He had developed a severe heart condition but had no money for treatment. Papa Jude, his old friend, had died 5 years earlier. Marcus was now the eldest among the homeless community under the bridge. Younger homeless people respected him for his kindness and wisdom. One morning, Marcus woke up with crushing chest pain. He couldn't breathe properly. His left arm was numb. A young homeless boy named Emeka noticed. "Uncle Marcus, you don't look well." Marcus tried to stand but collapsed. The homeless community gathered around him, frightened. "We need to take him to the hospital," someone said. "But who will pay?" another asked. They pooled their money, 350 naira in total. It wasn't enough for a taxi, let alone hospital treatment. Emeka, the brave young boy, ran to the main road and stopped cars, begging for help. Most drivers sped past, annoyed. Finally, a taxi driver stopped. "Please, sir. Our uncle is dying under the bridge. Please help us take him to the hospital." The driver looked at the dirty, desperate boy. Something in his eyes made him agree. "Where is he?" They carried Marcus to the taxi. His breathing was shallow, his face pale. The driver rushed them to the nearest hospital, City General Hospital, one of the best in the region. At the emergency room, a young nurse took one look at Marcus and immediately began processing him. Unlike 20 years ago, this hospital had a policy to stabilize critical patients first, regardless of payment. "Get Dr. Nwosu immediately," the nurse said. "This is a severe heart attack case." Within minutes, Dr. Ada Nwosu rushed into the emergency room in her white coat, her team behind her. She had been in the middle of another surgery when the emergency call came. "Patient is a 65-year-old male, severe myocardial infarction," the nurse reported quickly. Ada moved swiftly, checking his vitals, giving orders. "Prep him for emergency surgery immediately. We don't have much time." As they wheeled Marcus toward the operating room, one of the nurses cleaned his face and arms to prepare him. She noticed an old, faded hospital ID bracelet on his wrist from 20 years ago, with his name barely visible, Marcus Okonkwo. The nurse gasped. "Doctor, look at this." Ada stopped and looked at the bracelet. Her heart nearly stopped. She bent closer, reading the faded name. Marcus Okonkwo. Time seemed to freeze. Ada's hands began to tremble. Could this be him? After all these years? "Doctor, we need to move now," another surgeon urged. Ada shook herself back to focus. "Yes, let's go. Let's save him." The surgery lasted 6 hours. Ada worked with precision and determination she had never felt before. Her team marveled at her focus. She refused to let this patient die. When they finally closed, Ada stepped back, exhausted but hopeful. "He's stable. Move him to ICU. I want 24-hour monitoring." In the ICU, as Marcus slowly regained consciousness over the next 2 days, Ada visited him every hour. She studied his face, looking for any sign of recognition in her own memory. On the 3rd day, Marcus opened his eyes fully. Ada was sitting beside his bed. "Welcome back, Mr. Okonkwo," she said softly, tears already forming in her eyes. Marcus blinked, confused. His voice was weak. Where am I?" "You're in City General Hospital. You had a severe heart attack, but you're going to be fine." Marcus tried to sit up. "Hospital? No, I cannot pay. Please, I have no money. Let me go." Ada gently pressed his shoulder. "Please, rest. Don't worry about money." "You don't understand," Marcus said, distressed. I am homeless. I have nothing. This will cost too much. Ada's eyes filled with tears. Mr. Okonkwo, do you remember 20 years ago? A little girl named Ada? At this same hospital. Marcus froze. His eyes widened as memories flooded back. Ada? The little girl with fever? Ada nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Then she whispered, I am that little girl. You saved my life 20 years ago. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. You're Ada. Yes, Ada said, tears streaming down her face. You gave your last money to save me. You gave up everything. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. I thought I would never see you again. I didn't even know if you survived. I survived because of you, Ada said, holding his wrinkled hand. And I became a doctor because of you. My mother and I have been searching for you for 20 years. Marcus wept. 20 years. I've been under the bridge for 20 years. Ada's heart broke. Not anymore. Never again. She sat with him for hours, listening to his story. How he lost his job, how he struggled, how he nearly gave up many times but remembered little Ada's face and found reason to keep living. I always wondered if I made the right choice that night, Marcus admitted. I lost everything. Ada squeezed his hand. You gave me life. You gave me a future. And now, it's my turn to give you yours back. Ada called her mother immediately. When Kayama arrived at the hospital and saw Marcus, she fell on her knees, weeping and thanking God. Uncle Marcus, we've been looking everywhere for you, Kayama cried. God has finally brought us together. Ada didn't just treat Marcus medically. She paid for everything, the surgery, the medications, a private room. But more importantly, she gave him dignity. Uncle Marcus, Ada said one morning, I'm taking you home with me. I have a guest house on my property. It's yours for as long as you want it. Marcus protested weakly. My daughter, you've done too much already. You gave me your last money when you had nothing, Ada replied firmly. I can never do enough to repay that kindness. Please, let me do this. When Marcus was discharged 2 weeks later, Ada drove him to her beautiful home. The guest house was spacious, clean, with a small garden. Marcus stood at the entrance, overwhelmed. Is this really for me? He asked, tears flowing freely. Welcome home, Uncle Marcus, Ada said, embracing him. But Ada didn't stop there. She took Marcus shopping for new clothes, opened a bank account in his name, and deposited 5 million naira. This is your money, Uncle Marcus. For your comfort, your needs, anything you want. Marcus was speechless. From sleeping under a bridge to this, it felt like a dream. Over the following months, Marcus transformed. With proper nutrition, medical care, and a safe place to live, his health improved remarkably. The sadness in his eyes was replaced with light and joy. But Marcus didn't just sit idle. He remembered his friends under the bridge. He asked Ada if he could start a program to help other homeless people. Uncle Marcus, that's a beautiful idea, Ada said. Let's do it together. They established the Marcus Foundation, a non-profit organization providing medical care, food, and rehabilitation for homeless people. Marcus became the foundation's ambassador, personally going under bridges and to streets, bringing hope to others just like him. Ada provided free medical care through the foundation. They built a small shelter that could house 50 people at a time, offering them skills training and job placement assistance. The story of Marcus and Ada spread across the country. News outlets covered their story. People were moved to tears. Donations poured in from everywhere. I spent 20 years under the bridge, Marcus told reporters, so I could understand their pain. Now, God is using me to bring them hope. One day, Emeka, the young boy who had helped save Marcus, was brought to the shelter. When Marcus saw him, he embraced him warmly. My son, you saved my life, Marcus said. What do you want to be when you grow up? Emeka looked down shyly. I want to be a doctor, like Dr. Ada. But I never went to school. Marcus turned to Ada, who smiled and nodded. Emeka, from today, your education is our responsibility. Study hard, and one day, you too will save lives. 5 years later, Marcus stood on a stage at the grand opening of the Marcus Ada Medical Center, a state-of-the-art hospital dedicated to providing free healthcare to the poor. At 70, Marcus was healthy, dignified, and full of purpose. Beside him stood Dr. Ada Nwosu, now married with 2 children, and her mother Kioma, who still sold vegetables but now owned a large store. 25 years ago, Marcus began, addressing the huge crowd. I was a janitor who slept in a basement. I had one chance to change my life, and I gave it away to save a dying child. I lost my job, my dignity, everything. The crowd was silent, listening intently. For 20 years, I lived under a bridge, wondering if I had made a mistake. But today, I stand before you to say, kindness is never wasted. God sees everything. He was simply preparing me for this moment. Ada stepped forward. Uncle Marcus gave me life when he had nothing. That act of selfless love changed not just my life, but the lives of thousands of people we now serve through our foundation. She turned to face the audience. His story taught me that true wealth is not in what you have, but in what you give. Today, we open this hospital in his honor because one man's sacrifice created a ripple effect of hope. The crowd erupted in applause. Many were crying. Among the audience was Emeka, now 18 years old, wearing his university uniform. He had just been admitted to medical school on a full scholarship from the foundation. As the ceremony ended and people gathered to celebrate, Marcus sat quietly in the garden, watching children play. Ada joined him. Uncle Marcus, are you happy? Marcus smiled, his eyes glistening with tears. My daughter, I am more than happy. I am fulfilled. I thought I lost everything that night, but I gained something far greater: purpose, family, and the joy of seeing lives changed. He paused, then added, if I could go back to that night, knowing everything I would suffer, I would still give that money. Because some sacrifices open doors that money cannot buy. Ada rested her head on his shoulder. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure that sacrifice was worth it. As the sun set over the medical center, Marcus looked up at the building bearing his name, a homeless janitor who became a beacon of hope. His story became a legend told in schools, churches, and homes across the nation, the man who gave his last to save a life, and found that in losing everything, he gained eternity. And somewhere in heaven, Papa Jude smiled, his words from years ago finally fulfilled. Your reward is coming, even if you cannot see it yet. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories and get notified for some more. The end. Sometimes, the greatest investment you can make is in someone else's life. For in lifting others, we discover our own purpose.